Spirituality is that which helps us find meaning in life.
The meaning of life, the purpose of life, the discovery of meaning in life is the spirituality.
For most of us, we think of God or some type of a supreme being.
For me, my religion and my spirituality are one.
To me, it's an essential part of being human.
Everyone has a spirituality, whether they realize it or not.
Hello, my name is Doreen Westera. Spirituality is a well-recognized phenomenon in practically all cultures. In recent years, all known professionals have given increasing attention to spirituality, and there is a considerable amount of literature devoted to the subject. What is evident is that there are a variety of meanings attached to the term spirituality.
Well, I think spirituality is very hard to define, and the fact that it means different things to different people, I guess, makes it that much more difficult to put a label on it or to summarize it in a few words. To me, it's an essential part of being human. That's about the shortest definition, I guess, I could give it. There's a vast number of aspects of being human, but I think if you strip away most everything, if you take away all the material things, if you take away the things that you take for granted in your everyday life, and I think you're left with a few things, and spirituality is definitely one of them.
To me, spirituality is about probably three things. It's about how you nurture yourself, your relationship with yourself, how you treat other people in your life, and probably how you relate to the earth itself, I think.
It's our ability to be in touch with that which is beyond ourselves, the transcendent, however we might describe that, our concept of God.
It made itself apparent to me when I was very young. When I was about 12, I remember feeling that there was more to life than what you could sense with your five senses. There was another element there, and a lot of my work and my life has been spent exploring just what that is and trying to find out. And I really don't know if everybody experiences it the same way. I imagine it's very different for people, but I believe that we are spiritual beings, that there is much more happening than what appears to be happening.
To me, spirituality is an expression of my spirit seeking union with the greater spirit, which is God, who is the author of all truth and all goodness.
I think that spirituality is that part of us, that dimension of the person that strives to make sense of things that happen to us, events that happen in our lives or experiences. It just tries to create some order. I guess it would be that part that there's a sense of permanence. Like we can hardly imagine a time when we didn't exist, and we can't imagine for sure that when we're gone that there's not going to be any sense of us in the future. So I think that's this sense of spiritual, the essence of the person that seems to be the need for it to go on, that we have that sort of need. I think that spirituality for me in a personal sense has to involve some kind of a relationship with the self, with others, and with God. And but not God in the sense of some unknown God, but a very personal God who relates to us as persons, not as part of some human collective, but to us in very individual ways.
6 different people, 6 views of what spirituality means to them. Intangible, transcendent, essence of being human, belief, relationship. How can we frame the concept of spirituality so that it can be operationalized in our care of clients?
When we try to grasp the concept of spirituality, I think it's really important that we go to a good image in our own minds to hold some kind of context and framework from which we operate. And in systems today, including the healthcare system, there's a tendency to move towards the notion of holistic care and so on, as if, and speak of it as, you know, there's a physical component and an emotional component and a spiritual component and a social component and so on. And different people will add or take away the relevance of different components. I think that in some regards, to take the spiritual component as a component that kind of weighs into balance with other things and keeps the balance there is legitimate to a point. But I think that it works better for us in healthcare and in any type of career or profession if we think of spirituality not so much as a component that would throw off the balance, for instance, in this mobile, but is essential to keep the balance. But if we think of spirituality perhaps as balance itself, sometimes things happen in the workplace, in the family, in a person's physical or emotional states that kind of throws off the balance. And then, just as in this mobile, as the strings are placed in some in the middle and some are shifted off to the side to adjust and keep the other things in mind. Perhaps that's what spiritual growth, spiritual development, spiritual dynamic is all about. It's the shifting back and forth to try and sustain some measure of balance, or well-being is perhaps another word that we use for it, within the life of the individual, and perhaps in broader contexts as well, that we have more community spirituality, where groups come together, where individuals come together to make up groups, such as homes, families, other types of organizations that come together that have some sort of spirit to them, don't they? And so it's those factors that make up people's lives being in balance that really, I think, summarizes what spirituality is. Now, we can't say all of that about spirituality without referring to the factor that most of us connect spirituality with belief in something or someone beyond that which is tangible. For most of us, we think of God or some type of a supreme being. That becomes part of the spirituality as well.
When I approach patients that have spiritual needs, I think in terms of what is their meaning of life? What do they hold sacred? What is special to them? And in people's lives, for the most part, it's relationships that are most important. It's also to be aware of what in their past that has been meaningful to them. So we work with their past, but also with their hopes, their dreams. All of that is spirituality. I think in terms of, I guess very close to it is Viktor Frankl's logotherapy, the whole sense of meaning of life. And that to me encompasses encompasses spirituality. And therefore, when I think that way, I think in terms of everybody has a spirituality, has a need for spiritual direction, spiritual growth, rather than restricting ourselves to merely those who have a religiosity, who have a specific affiliation with a religion. So really, the religious part of it is the working out of their belief system, as distinct from the overall meaning of life and purpose of life, and that is the spirituality. So spirituality is the larger context of which religion is only one small part.
Peter raises the issue of religion and connects it to spirituality. Reflection on these two terms is critical to delineating differences between them, differences which can have significant